Look, the Blue Jays are in a fascinating position right now, and there is some serious smoke coming out of Korea that we need to talk about. Chosun Daily just dropped a report that has Toronto potentially looking at Ha-Seong Kim as insurance, maybe even as a replacement if Bo Bichette walks in free agency. And honestly, this tells us so much about where the front office's head is at right now. Let's be real for a second. Bo Bichette is entering free agency, and while Toronto would love to bring him back, there is zero guarantee that happens. The market is unpredictable, other teams have money to spend, and Bichette might be looking for something Toronto isn't willing to offer. So what does any smart organization do? They start looking at contingency plans. They start exploring alternatives. And apparently, Ha-Seong Kim's name is on that list. Now, before we get too deep into this, we need to understand what Kim actually brings to the table, because his profile is completely different from Bichette's. Kim won a Gold Glove in 2023 with the Padres. The guy is an absolute wizard with the leather. He's a three-time Gold Glove winner in the KBO League too, so this isn't some flash-in-the-pan defensive performance. This is a guy who consistently makes plays that other infielders simply can't make. If you prioritize defense up the middle, Kim is your guy, no question about it. But here is where it gets interesting and where the debate starts. Offensively, Kim isn't going to blow anyone away. Over his career spanning 588 games, he's hitting .242 with a .324 on-base percentage and just 52 home runs. Those aren't the numbers that make you jump out of your seat. Compare that to what Bichette has given Toronto over the years, and you are talking about a significant offensive downgrade. Bichette, when he's right, is one of the more dynamic offensive shortstops in the game. Kim is not that player. This past season, Kim bounced between Tampa Bay and Atlanta, playing just 48 games combined. He slashed .234, .304, .345 with 5 home runs and 17 RBIs. Again, not exactly inspiring offensive production. At the end of the season, he declined his mutual option with Atlanta and hit free agency, which is why he's available right now and why Toronto can even have this conversation. So why would the Blue Jays even consider this? Well, there are a few reasons that actually make sense when you think about it. First, versatility. Kim has spent most of his recent time at shortstop, but the guy can play multiple positions. He's logged 132 games at second base and 79 games at third base throughout his career. That kind of flexibility is valuable, especially for a team that might be looking at some roster shuffling. If you sign Kim, you are not locked into playing him at one position. You can move pieces around depending on what else you do this offseason. Second, the cost factor. Kim is a free agent, which means no prospect capital going out the door. The Blue Jays have also been connected to Ketel Marte from Arizona, and while Marte is the better offensive player, acquiring him would require giving up significant pieces from the farm system. With Kim, it's just money. You negotiate a contract, you sign him, and you are done. No trade packages to worry about, no organizational depth being depleted. For a team that might want to preserve their farm system for other moves, that's a legitimate consideration. Third, and this is important, the Blue Jays have shown interest in adding an Asian ball player. Tahir has been chatter about this for a while now, and Kim fits that profile perfectly. He's established himself in MLB, he understands the league, and he brings an international presence that the organization apparently wants. Whether that's for marketing reasons, for expanding their fan base, or simply because they believe in the talent pool, it's clearly part of their strategy. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. If you are a Blue Jays fan, are you excited about swapping Bo Bichette for Ha-Seong Kim? Probably not. The offensive drop-off is substantial. Bichette, even in a down year, provides more pop and run production than Kim has shown he's capable of. If Toronto's lineup is going to compete in the AL East, they need offense. They need guys who can drive in runs and put pressure on opposing pitchers. Kim doesn't really do that. However, and this is a big however, defense matters. The Blue Jays have had defensive issues in the past, and having a Gold Glove caliber defender up the middle changes the entire dynamic of your team. It helps your pitching staff. It saves runs. It keeps you in games that you might otherwise lose. If Toronto believes they can generate offense from other positions and they prioritize not giving runs away defensively, then Kim starts to make more sense. The reality is this probably isn't an either-or situation. The Blue Jays' first priority is still bringing Bichette back. That much is clear. But they're doing their due diligence. They're exploring the market. They're making sure that if Bichette signs elsewhere, they're not caught flat-footed with no plan. That's smart roster management. That's what front offices should be doing. Kim represents the low risk, high defense option. He's not going to cost you a fortune. He's not going to require trading away your top prospects. But he's also not going to be the offensive force that Bichette can be. It's a trade off, and it comes down to what the Blue Jays value more. Do they want the offensive upside and accept potentially weaker defense, or do they want the elite glove work and figure out offense elsewhere? One thing working in Kim's favor is that he's still relatively young, and there is always the possibility, however slim, that he figures something out offensively and takes a step forward. Stranger things have happened in baseball. Players change their approaches, they get more comfortable, they find something mechanically that clicks. Maybe Kim becomes a more complete player than his track record suggests, but you can't bank on that. You have to evaluate him based on what he's shown. And what he's shown is elite defense with below average offense. The Korean report from Chosun Daily shouldn't be dismissed either. These outlets often have solid connections and inside information, especially when it involves Korean players. If they're reporting that Toronto has interest, there is probably legitimacy to it. This isn't just speculation. There have likely been preliminary conversations or at least internal discussions within the Blue Jays organization about what Kim could bring. So where does this leave us? Toronto is keeping their options open. They want Bichette back, but they're not going to wait around forever or overpay drastically just to retain him. Ha-Seong Kim is on their radar as a defensive specialist who can fill multiple infield spots if needed. He's available without giving up assets, and he checks the box of adding an established Asian player to the roster. The offensive concerns are real and can't be ignored, but apparently the front office believes the defensive value and flexibility might outweigh those limitations. Whether that's the right call remains to be seen, but at least they're thinking ahead and preparing for multiple scenarios. That's all you can ask for during this time of year when roster construction is happening and teams are trying to position themselves for contention.